I just got back from Avengers Endgame, and that was grueling. A grueling 3 hours. And I'm not just talking about the battle to try and stave off the need for a bathroom break. What a ride. Anyways, I'm going to try to regain my composure for some spoiler-free thoughts coming up next. Greetings, fellow Marvelites. 4K here with a post-Avengers Endgame breakdown and conversation. But don't worry, I'm going to keep it spoiler-free. In fact, it might be a little disjointed, partially because of that. I might jump around a bit because I don't want to delve into any one aspect too much, lest I get into that spoiler territory, and I won't for this video. I'm going to follow up with a spoiler conversation for those of you that have seen it, that are looking for some thoughts on the spoiler elements. But for this video, no spoilers. So I'm not going to really talk too much about the movie, but man, it packed a wallop. It's funny because you knew going into it that there's going to be some emotional moments. There's been talk of certain actors maybe not wanting to come back and keep doing their roles, and that's fed speculation. There might be some deaths and such, but forget that for a second. Put that to the side. This movie is just packed with little character moments that just punch you in the gut, in a good way. But I mean, man, it was the pervasiveness of that emotional tone was a little bit more than I expected, at least as far as how many times you'd see kind of powerful moments with these characters that we've gotten to know and love over the past 12 years. Of course, some of us longer, especially if we were into the comic books and the cartoons. And frankly, at the end, I was just a wreck. My shirt was completely blown out, just drenched in sweat. Went with a big group of friends, and one of our buddies, Dan, got popcorn for everybody, and they passed me a box of popcorn and a bunch of napkins, and only they weren't napkins. It turned out they were tissues. I think that's just what he had that he brought from home or something, which worked out kind of great because I used those tissues quite a bit. Like I said, there were just lots of powerful, high impact as far as emotional moments. And especially, like I said, if you really love these characters, and there's so many just, I don't know, kind of lovely or poetic callbacks to the journey that these characters have been on. And, it's funny because, like I said, going into it, that there's going to be some emotional moments. It's kind of the end of an era for the MCU. But it's ironic because I just did a video. I haven't even finished editing it yet and put it up, but it was on the little recent kind of viral video, the Star Wars Cry guy. Maybe you heard of that. A guy who did a reaction video of the Skywalker Rises Star Wars trailer, and he got super emotional, was crying, and he got a lot of backlash and flack on social media over it. Anyways, I had just done a video about how really the sign that art really is good is if it can elicit those emotions from people. And I mean, geez, Avengers, they killed it. They absolutely killed it. They stuck the ending. I mean, it was almost difficult to get through. I can't wait to watch it again without having, to worry about all the anticipation. Because the anticipation for this it's one of the most anticipated and widely wanted movie in perhaps film history. because it is building on this mythology built up over 12 movies. Even if you haven't seen them all, most people have seen a handful of them at least. And our audience was at the theaters was just, that was an experience in and of itself. Sometimes I'll wait for a movie to come out on Netflix or DVD or Blu-ray before I check it out. This is a movie that you gain viewing the viewing experience is augmented by seeing it in a theater with a group of people. The reactions that the audience got, when I do my spoiler video, I'll mention specific scenes, but it was just amazing. It was awesome. I'm a huge hardcore comic book fan. Spider-Man and Captain America were always really important characters to me because their ideology was something that you can look up to. A lot of people may think it's corny, but with great power comes great responsibility that's a tenet you can live by. And it's a universal truth. And Captain America, I remember when I was collecting comic books in the 80s, everybody loved Wolverine and Punisher, and I did too. It was the rise of the anti-hero. And I remember when I started collecting Captain America, I loved that fact that he was so much more of a pure character, that he did the right thing just because it was the right thing. And, to see the journey that Cap has gone through. There are moments in Endgame that, are among the best of those moments of Cap throughout all the films. Those moments, like I can do this all day, especially that first time against the bully. That's Cap. No matter what you thought about that movie, that scene, that line should have been perfect for you if you really love Cap from the comic books, because even though that scene was never, that I know of, in a Captain America comic book, that summed up the character just perfectly. And a lot of the characters have those moments in this movie. It's just packed with these beautiful moments for these characters. I think it's one of Hawkeye's best film roles. I have been personally disappointed by Hawkeye, mainly because I don't like the Ultimate Universe Hawkeye. That Hawkeye kind of sucks. And the 616 main comic line Hawkeye actually is a really cool character with a really cool arc, starting as a bad guy and reforming and kind of having a chip on his shoulder, especially earlier in his superhero career. It's just great moments for every character. I actually didn't just get back from the theater. It took me at least a few minutes to try and decompress a little bit. I even ran to the bodega and got myself a hard seltzer to try and calm my jangled nerves. My anticipation was so high. I was like fidgety the entire time from the movie was going on, just because even as big plot point after plot point is revealed, I was just like, I know there's so much more coming. And I would just look back and I hope I did not annoy the people sitting next to me, shaking the seat with my, fidgety leg or whatever the case would be. And, like I said, by the end, I was sweaty, just drained. Obviously it's going to be a big movie with just sweeping visuals and action scenes. That's another thing, going into it. And, a lot of people walked out of Infinity War and wow, that was exhausting. And this is the most exhausting movie I've ever seen in my life. One thing I thought a lot about was, recently there are what I think a bunch of elitist, pretentious jerks in Hollywood that have been bad-mouthing superhero movies as wrecking the industry. And today is a big blank you to all of those people. Steven Spielberg, Jodie Foster, Peter Bogdanovich. When was the last time you made a movie, Peter Bogdanovich? And here you are crapping on a movie that other artists are making and that millions of people love. I just don't get it. All those people have come out that I named have come out and said that, oh, we can't make art movies anymore because everything's superheroes. You know, Marvel and Kevin Feige has perfected the blockbuster in the form of superhero movies. Their batting average is just amazing, and they're doing what every other studio is trying, some in superhero format and some in whatever disaster, Jurassic Park, whatever. Again, the character moments in this film, I thought about Jurassic World, and I just kind of laughed inside thinking about that, because I really did not like or care for or empathize with any of the characters in that movie. Even Chris Pratt, who I think is a really charismatic actor and that I like quite a bit, just seemed so cardboard. And when you're sitting through Avengers and feeling the emotional power of the scene play out, and feeling the emotional power in the audience, I mean, you know, hearing people gasp. I remember just a few seconds into it, there was just gasps, audible gasps across the whole theater, and you could feel it. You're like, whoa. That's the power of art. I think rarely in blockbuster history have you seen, a spectacle movie so successful in connecting with an audience that way. I mean, Star Wars would be certainly one example, or even Indiana Jones. But Avengers Endgame did it, and it joins the pantheon as one of the greatest action movies, one of the greatest comic book movies, one of the greatest spectacle blockbuster movies of all time. It's also one of the first movies I've ever been to where the entire audience, virtually the entire audience, stayed in their seats until the last credit rolled. Even in this modern day and age of Marvel's MCU post-credit sequences, still some people don't stick around for them. Some people who are casual fans don't stick around for them. This one, everybody stayed to the end. And it's been that's actually one of the few points of controversy the film has developed. You may have heard this, and this isn't really a spoiler. It's been well announced. I know John Campea was talking about it on his channel. I did not consider it a spoiler, but there is technically no end credits sequence or end credits scene teasing a new Avengers movie, and I think that worked for the film. I think that this was closing a chapter on the MCU, and it's a bookend. It's a bookend to match the bookend of Iron Man 1, and this whole journey that's taken place in between. And so usually the post-credit sequences are a tease for the next chapter, and I thought it was a very good idea to just let everybody sit with the thoughts of this movie running through their minds. And I know some people felt, at least I saw on Twitter, some people felt tricked. They were waiting for their post-credit sequence. And there technically is a little nugget at the very, very end that was so subtle a lot of people missed it. And I'll talk about it in my spoiler video later. So if you want to check that out, take a look for that. But, as far as that, when I was in film studies, our film professor, of course, had a rule that anyone that gets up during a film screening day before the final credits have rolled is going to be marked absent for that day, for that film screening day. And, so we were kind of forced into that. But the idea is that, as film scholars, we give credit to the people that combined to put this piece of artwork out there. And so under his watch, he said, I don't care what you do on your own. I technically think you should follow this practice all the time, but as long as it's on my watch, everybody lets every name go up on the screen without leaving. And it's not like you have to read it. It's just that you give some basic respect to the people that worked on the film. And of course, if someone did want to read it, if everybody in front of them's getting up to, walk out, that makes you miss something. I've actually heard of people who worked on films and wanted to see their name in the end credits, and they missed it because the person in front of them got up to walk out. So I've always thought that, because really it's not just that, what my professor would say, it's also what I at least came to feel is that it's the perfect time to kind of just let that movie wash over you and think about what you think about that movie, kind of process everything that you've seen. And because usually as the credits are going by, you have very signature elements of the score, and you can talk with your friends that you went to the movie with and go back and forth on what did you think about it, what did you think of that one moment or whatever. So whatever, I don't really have too much sympathy for people that felt tricked into watching the end, but I actually do say, there is a little something there that was a nice little poetic thing. So basically, I think in summary, they hit it out of the park. I'm a very skeptical movie watcher, not cynical though. I am also a very big enthusiast, especially of genre entertainment, comic books, superheroes, sci-fi, horror, whatever. But also the adaptation process. Really interested in that process, and I love comic book adaptations, but I very much compartmentalize, even though I love almost every comic book movie, even the bad ones, because usually they at least have certain moments that really are great adaptation of what the comic book art form is. Even if it's only in a scene or two, those moments are what I go to the movies for, at least those types of movies. And so, I would be very comfortable saying, I thought it was good, but I had some issues with XYZ. And I might have more issues upon rewatchings, but upon the initial viewing, I would struggle to come up with anything negative that I could say about this movie. It was phenomenal. It deserves to break all those records, and I can't wait to see it break those records, and I can't wait to go back to the theater and see it again, see it in IMAX maybe. It totally is worth it. If you haven't seen it, go out and see it. If you're watching this video, you probably would be going to see it no matter what I say anyways. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't oversell it. I'm sure some people... Actually, there was one or two people that had some nitpicky complaints afterwards. And again, John Campea, I watch his channel quite a bit, and he was a little bit nitpicky about it as well. I didn't see the spoiler version of that because I hadn't seen the movie yet. This was yesterday. I was checking out some of his videos, but I give it an absolute thumbs up. I think it is one of the greatest comic book movies of all time, one of the greatest MCU movies, and I can't wait to hear what everybody thinks of it. I'm just psyched to hit social media, and now that I've got all the spoilers out of the way for myself, at least I can go to social media and start seeing what people are saying about it, because it wrecked me. I was just exhausted. It actually took me a while to kind of get the gumption up to turn on the camera and do this, because I'm like, oh man, I gotta think now. I gotta put together some cogent thoughts, and not that they've been that cogent, but it was that much of an experience. It was an amazing film experience. I loved it, and sad to see that an era's gone, but looking forward to what the future brings, and look forward to hearing what you think. Thanks so much for watching. Give us a like or a subscribe or check out one of our other videos. Take care.